Hello everyone, it's Jonny Khatru, and in today's video I'll be listening to Los Delirios del Mariscal by Crucis. Crucis were a progressive rock band from Argentina operating in the mid-1970s. This was their second album, and it seems it's usually said to be their masterpiece. Unfortunately, they split up shortly after making it. This album has been recommended by a few of you guys over on my other videos covering Argentine prog rock, such as my videos on albums by Luis Alberto Spinetta and Charly García. It seems Crucis are coming more from the same place as some of my favourite bands of all time, like Genesis and King Crimson. More of a symphonic prog approach. That's what I've heard anyway. But it's time to find out for myself. If you enjoyed the video, please do me a favour and click the like button. And let's get into this. Track 1 is called No me separen de mí. Nice, very nice. So the groove of that song started out with something more in the vein of Gentle Giant than perhaps I was expecting. Gentle Giant making music around the same time as this album. They were making a kind of really tight but funky prog rock. I only just recently heard the Gentle Giant album Freehand for the first time. I enjoyed it quite a bit. You can see my video of my first listen to that album with the link up here. But it more or less followed in the vein of their previous album, The Power and the Glory, which also had this really tight, funky sound. Yeah, it has those lovely sounding polyrhythmic keyboard parts. But there was a lead synthesizer going over the top of this that was suggesting something slightly more emotionally driven than anything Gentle Giant does. And once the vocals came in, that did seem to confirm what I was suspecting. Actually, the vocal style was a little closer to Charly Garcia's style than perhaps I was expecting. And I did hear that Charly supervised the recording of their first album. It doesn't seem like he was involved in this one though. In this song there were more instrumentals that followed that also had that complex rhythmic section with something more emotional coming over the top in the keyboards. I really like that effect. It is a bit more reminiscent of some of my favorite stuff by Genesis and Yes. In fact, the guitar playing in this song was a little reminiscent of Steve Howe at times. And the drums at times had that Bill Bruford sound in the tuning of the drums and the precision in the playing. The lyrics of the song seem to be about not wanting to be taken away from the situation that is perfect for you, and that situation being something quite humble, something quite simple in life. You know, he says, "Hoy solo quiero ver salir el sol," just want to see the sunrise. So yeah, quite simple lyrics, but effective, and they make for a nice introduction. As I understand it, that's the only bit of vocals we're going to get on the album. I think that the rest of it is going to be instrumental. But yeah, I did enjoy the song overall. I probably enjoyed the instrumental parts more than the vocal parts though, which is good considering that that seems to be what we're going to get for the rest of the album. So let's get into the next one. Track 2 is the title track, Los Delirios del Mariscal. That's a pretty funny ending. It was a pretty fun song all in all, especially the last third. But everything I loved about the first track in terms of the sound thankfully continued into this song. I really enjoyed the slow builds that this song started with. Out of almost complete silence, it slowly raised up with a chord sequence that felt like it could be going onward, rising forever. And the guitar lines over those chords were sweet and memorable. A lot of this song had the feeling, for me, like Pink Floyd if they wanted to make something as romantic as Genesis. The guitar was at times pretty bluesy for prog rock in a David Gilmour kind of way, but not in the main sequence I was talking about, where the guitar in fact seems to act as the vocal for the song, you know, playing the main melody over the big keyboard chords. And I really loved that section that was at the beginning and returned halfway through. But then they decided to end off the song with something quite a bit more playful, more in the vein of the Canterbury sound, like something Caravan or Hatfield and the North would do. All culminating in a pretty epic ending almost, but then also seeming to have its tongue in its cheek a little bit. So yeah, as I said, good fun. Moving on to track 3, it's called Pollo frito. Very impressive. There was some really nice in unison play between the guitar and keyboards there. But the majority of the song was very much led by the lead guitar. Much of this song was really heading headfirst into jazz fusion territory, much more than I was expecting from this album. It definitely puts it more in line with what Charly García and Spinetta were doing at the same time. That kind of jazz fusion sound inspired by Mahavishnu Orchestra, Return to Forever and so many others. This song was definitely one for the musicians to display all their technical chops. Like the first song though, it didn't take long for something a bit more emotional to appear over the top of the rhythmic complexity. I really enjoyed the whole riffarama of this song at times. So many of the riffs were really memorable, and the guitar solos were really impressive. Alongside some of the more bluesy stuff we heard on the previous song, this one also had some more jazz fusion based guitar solos, more in the vein of Mahavishnu Orchestra's John McLaughlin or Adam Holdsworth. Lightning fast, precise, and pretty beautiful. But yeah, overall this was just a song that was really rocking, but really impressive. And that just leaves us with the last song. It's track 4 and it's called Abismo, terrenal. Nice. Oh, got a bit more of those synthesizers at the end there. I really loved them at the very start. The way the song started was with these kind of layers of synthesizers covered in delay, which reminded me of the opening of Rising by Rainbow, which I think came out the same year as this. I love that introduction. I mean, it's very nostalgic for me because I loved that Rainbow album when I was young. But it's more than that. It's just a great sound and they employed it really well here. We had loads more really impressive guitar solos over this song. A lot more in that Mahavishnu style again. Really lightning fast playing, you know, impressive stuff. The song was really exciting. I think my only complaint would be that outside of the introduction and outro, the emotion that covered a lot of the previous tracks on this album was kind of missing. It just kind of had me feeling at times that maybe they didn't have as much to say on this song as they did on the songs before. It was more like a display of their technical powers for the most part. And technical powers they absolutely have, especially the guitar player. And the drummer's no slouch. I guess I just feel that the emotion that I felt, especially in track 1 and 2, it was what set this album apart from more playing focused jazz fusion albums. You know, jazz fusion stuff that tends to put playing technique over the composition. This last track would have fit well on something like Bill Bruford's solo albums, his early stuff under the name Bruford. You know, really impressive stuff and often quite thrilling, but it doesn't really make me feel too much. Still, very impressive and enjoyable, purely as a tour de force of high-speed rock playing. I did enjoy this album quite a bit overall. I suppose I was expecting something slightly more symphonic, as I said at the start, something less focused in blues and jazz fusion. Instead, I got a really strong album by a clearly really talented band, but playing something that is more or less in a similar style to what I've heard from La Máquina de Hacer Pájaros and certain parts of Spinetta's A 18 Minutos del Sol. It's a really cool sound, and even up to track 3 I was really quite taken with the album. And I even enjoyed track 4 in its own way, but I suppose maybe if they could have used vocals for more of the album, that would have given me the variety I feel I needed. And especially considering that there were a couple moments in the last few songs where the guitar even seemed to be acting as the voice. And I just wonder, why didn't they put some voice in there? Especially since Gustavo Montesano seems to have a pretty nice voice, as we heard on track 1. But yeah, the album's really exciting, so much high energy playing, and a really fun style of composition that laces riff after riff, amongst improvised solos that take a variety of different approaches. And I'll be interested to see how it grows on me over time after a few more listens, because there was of course quite a lot to take in here. So follow me over on Twitch if you'd like to join me to follow up on this and listen to this album in full with me. I'd love to see you there for some listening parties. If you enjoyed this video, please consider supporting me with the link in the description to buy me a coffee. It really helps me to be able to keep my channel going, keep making these videos, so I'll really appreciate it. And thank you very much for watching. Until next time, take it easy.